Start recording. Excuse me. Alrighty, so welcome everyone to week 12. This week we are looking at a refresher, and essentially I've gone through and looked at some of the questions I've been getting from some of our copywriters, and I just want to, I guess, go back and reiterate a few things. There may not be an awful lot new for everyone, but it's like everything, unless you do get reminded of it often, then some things, hopefully you'll have a few aha moments where, oh, that's right, or yes, I could do that, or I should be doing that. So we might do these intermittently over the next few weeks, just of different things that come up from time to time. So hopefully it will be a useful next 45 minutes or so for everyone. Alrighty, so look, what I want to achieve this session is to have a look at a couple of components, just as I said, as a refresher. If you are new to it, and I suppose that's the second component of this, some of what we're going through, if you haven't been around the group for a long time, will be new to you, and that will be a nice little boost, I think, to improve your understanding. So we will have a look at those as a refresher. We'll have a look at some examples, importantly, and we'll have some discussions and recommendations based on our shared understanding. So that's where we're heading for this week, folks. All right, so we go through all of those components, and I guess our focus today is the radio interview, pardon me, and a few different things about the booklets and how we can construct titles a little bit better, and even the cover copy. I just thought I'd review some of that. There's someone moving furniture there, sounds like. Not sure who that is. Anyone moving furniture? No, I don't think so. Thank you for thinking of me though, Pauline, but I don't know what that is in the background. Alrighty, so look, I just want to go over the shock and awe folder copy. Essentially, what we have to do. Anyone else getting distracted by that, or is it just me?
It is distracting, but do you also have your screen up today, Steve?
Yeah, can anyone see my screen?
No.
Okay.
Can't see it.
The welcome screen, I can see.
All right, there we go. What about now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, I didn't... Well, see, there you go. Man flu affected me already. I forgot to click the show my screen button. So, like I said to Brendan, if it's a lot of dead air there, please call 911. You'll know that...
They're on speed dial.
Yeah, thank you. Mike Barker, a warm welcome back. Haven't seen you for a long time. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate.
That's good. You calling from the Philippines again?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Alrighty, so the shock and awe folder copy. What we've got to do as copywriters is come up with what copy we are going to put on the folder. Now, we've got to keep in mind the context for this. In other words, this is the first thing that the prospect will see. So what words are we going to use on there to compel them to open it? That's our first job when they get the shock and awe. So we have to think long and hard about the sorts of things, what are the hot buttons for the market, and then how we're going to express those hot buttons to get them to read the shock and awe itself. So we have been over this, but I think it is worthwhile, just refreshing on that, because it is apart from the cover letter, the first part of it they see. So we want everything to be congruent, we want everything to be compelling, and we want to make sure the cover does its job in hooking them in and getting them to read on. So we've got to have those things in mind. The other thing that we have to do is what we're going to put inside the cover, what we're going to put on the CD, and even what we're going to put on the back cover. And I would suggest that perhaps a testimonial is the way to go on the back cover, although there may be one or two other things that could possibly go there. All right, so just with regards to the cover, what I'm suggesting is that we put the shock and awe title plus something else, and that something else is something that is going to, like I said, push their hot buttons and compel them to open it. Gary Hobley, welcome.
G'day, Steve. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear. All right, so your computer issues are fixed, which is good. All right, so we might think that it might be something to do with the USP, it might be something to do with the offer. However, I would caution about using the offer there. If the offer doesn't work, then the whole shock and awe will need to be redone. But it does horses for courses. I'm giving you rough outlines here, guidelines to go by, and you need to work within those. So we do have to have our thinking caps on about that. And again, what's going to get them to open the shock and awe? That has to be in the forefront of our mind. Now, inside the cover, there's got to be something there. It's not just, and never has been, a blank page. So a little bio about the person or a personal message from the person, as in the business owner. Maybe one or two of the hot buttons dealt with in a compelling sales type way that is going to get them to look at certain parts of the shock and awe. Again, you have to put some thought into that. It could be something to do with the offer, but again, you lock it in there in the cover, and then if the offer doesn't work, it can be expensive for the business owner. So just be careful about that one. And again, what's going to get them to keep reading? In other words, all the time, those things should be forefront of mind about what we are going to put there. And it really just isn't necessarily the last thing that we do when we're in a hurry just to get the damn thing done and then put up there so we can get paid. We still have to put time, energy, and thought into this so it works well. And you'll notice there's no secret there. What's going to get them to open? What's going to get them to keep reading? Those two things are the critical things that we must have in our minds as we are writing those things. What's going to get them to keep reading? What's going to get them to keep reading? And
Steve?
then also the CD. Yeah, Pauline?
No, it's Ray.
Oh, Ray, sorry.
Just a quick clarification. Just on the offer, because like a lot of the packages are like for smaller businesses and they're buying in bulk, would that possibly date if you put the offer in with a time thing, would that date the shock and awe, and then they wouldn't be able to use it later if they change their offer?
Yeah, correct. And the reason I'm covering this now is that originally, we decided that in conjunction with the client, we decided on the offer, and that's how the shock and awe would be written around the offer. Now, over time, and this document has changed a little bit over time, one of the things that we've found is that some clients, not all of them, have come back and said, well, that offer's not working. And as we know, test and measure, that's marketing. Sometimes we think we nail the offer, and the market doesn't respond to it. Or, all offers have a shelf life. What happens to the client when they've got this really good offer and then people just stop responding to it? It works really well, then they stop responding. What have they got to do? Go and reprint the whole shock and awe. So I think probably the last 8 months, maybe 12 months, you would have heard me saying a number of times to write it flexibly so that the business owner can change that offer. So really all they're doing is changing that last book. If that's the case, then we can't have details of the offer. In other words, we can't have on the cover something like "see inside" about how to get the free trip to Thailand, as an example. So we've got to be careful how we go about doing that if we're going to include something about the offer. Sorry, I'm just getting feedback there, guys. Anyone else? No? It's normally Farhad, but I just tried Farhad and it stopped. Didn't stop, so it's not you, Farhad.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I'm getting feedback from somewhere. Let me have a look. I'll keep talking and maybe... No, see, it's not you, Farhad. It's always you, Farhad, so it's always easy. So I'm just going to keep rattling on and trying to mute. No, it's not Brendan. Can't be Dave, I don't think, because he hasn't got his... No, it's not Dave Oliver. Gary Hobley's definitely muted himself at his end. And this is rather annoying. And Joyce has muted herself, so it's not her. Let me see. I've now just tried Michael Martin, and I think it stopped. There you go. Michael, there's a gremlin in your system somehow. We are getting the feedback from you, so I've muted you from my end to stop that, and it has seemed to have stopped it. All right, so is that clear for everyone that we need to be aiming at flexibility so that this document as a marketing piece has an extended life? Any questions around that?
Yeah, no, thanks for that clarification, Steve, because I know that they have now put in that one-page offer sheet at the back of the Snap as a standalone, so they can actually change their offer
Yeah.
and keep the Snap as the whole package complete and then just slot in their newest offer.
Yeah. Now, just a little bit more on that. What I have done to overcome that, now, I've said to everyone at the end of every book, there needs to be something to compel them to read on. And so it's often a direction to see the back of it, to see the offer. Now, how we had tackled that previously was, and as you'll discover at the back of this package or in the last section of this package, you'll see how you can win a free holiday to Thailand with every blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we can't put that in because that means you've got to change every booklet. So how you could do it, it isn't as compelling, but it does affect the life of it. It gives it more life, is something like, see the back of the book for I don't know, this is really poorly, I'm just off the top of my head. See the back of the book for the really interesting offer which will give you great advantages today. Something like that. I mean, that's terrible, but see how it's not specific about what it is. So you still can do that. You still can compel them to go to the back, but it just doesn't have to be the specific thing. That eliminates that, heck, this is only, I hope this works because everything's printed with a trip to Thailand in it. Any questions there? Comments, observations?
Better to keep it generic.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing we've got to do is to copy on the CD itself. That's pretty standard though. We really don't have to deviate too much from that. We'll go through, there also is a bit of copy beside the CD which entices them to listen. I'll go through some of those examples. This is the one from Danny and Ali Halupka down in South Australia for Grant Sheds. So you can see we've got our title, The Farmer's Guide to Choosing the Best Farm Shed for Your Rural Property. You can't read it down there, but it says Aussie Tough Farm Sheds delivered on time and backed by our incredible 50-year rock-solid guarantee. Okay, so we've got something there that is going to compel them to read into the shop and all. Again, we're not asking for huge amounts of copy here, and again, it can't be very long because we do want people to read it quickly and then be compelled to read on a little bit further. So that's the kind of thing we've got to be doing for the cover. And then on the inside, you can see, so the copywriters had to come up with this. Finally, here's how to get the farm shed you want, etc., etc. Then they've got the interview, but they've also put some farmers' stories in here. And there will be some flexibility for some shock and awe's as well. And I'll go through that in a little bit more detail shortly. That's what the inside cover of that one looks like. And you can see the audio CD there and what it says. Okay, and you can see the copy on here. Alison and Danny Halupka, owners of Grant Shed, interviewed by Ian Graham. All right, here's another one. Now, again, this is an older one. We don't use those words together, an official consumer guide. We might just say, if the target is mums, the mum's guide to how to lose weight to the healthier way and keep it off. And these bullet points down here, there's just 4 of them. That's probably a little bit longer than I would tend to do, but again, what is going to entice the market to open up the shock and awe and read it? All right, and there's the inside cover. Again, bonus interview, and this is what that part up there says. So it's a message, it says the founder, okay, a note from or a message from, and it can just be a salesy kind of message that tries to connect with the target market here. All right, so we have to put some thought into that. And that's the copy there that you probably can't read. All right, so how it actually looks, how we send it to the designer. This is straight from one of mine. Again, we wouldn't be using official and together. And again, here's an older one that had the offer on the front, okay, but we wouldn't be using necessarily at half price. We might say something about top quality local drops, for less than the chain stores can supply or something like that. Again, not as compelling, but we want the longevity of the document to last. So that's what it looks like. I just do it on an A4 sheet like that, and then the CD copy is that. On the CD itself is copy inside cover up top with Tom's pick, and then you can see I've got a quote there, and then Tom Holt, founder and owner of Thomas Holt Wines. All right, so that's all it looks like, and again, it's more, the time here is more the thought about what is going to compel the target market to open it rather than anything pretty. There's another example, and again, an older one. We're not going to use official guide again. And inside, what you and your staff should know about how supply chain logistics impacts on your company's bottom line. That's straight from book 2. Right, so there's another example that the hot button in this market was profit. So I've tried to entice them in with what they should be doing about their supply chain in terms of their profit. And then the inside, so on the CD, or the CD on the CD, and then Robbo Boom with a quote. All right, so that's what it should look like. Now, the other thing is on the back, sometimes I worry about it, sometimes I don't. I don't really have a formula for it. I might just feel like putting a testimonial on the back if I've got a really good testimonial. Any questions? Oops. Questions or comments about the folder copy for the shock and awe?
I got a comment. Oh, you go first.
No, you go,
Mike.
Mike. Okay, go, Mohammed.
It just seems like you've just got to thread each bit of copy with a wow factor.
Yeah.
And just keep it simple and entice them to the next step.
Yep. It's a good way of putting it. Good summary. Yeah, Mike.
Well, bearing in mind that these are not sitting in a stand somewhere for people to pick up. People have actually read some compelling copy and ordered them.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's been a process, isn't there?
Correct.
So so they are more likely to read them regardless. But for me, they're called a report. I wouldn't. I think the artwork is going to play a big part in whether they look at them or not. Obviously, the heading is, and that's something. The title of the shock and awe itself, and that's something that a lot of effort goes into. And Mel will often suggest things, or the client, and it goes through a long process. So that's the heading or the title is something that will make them want to read it or not. But then the artwork, and for instance, the Sheds one, I thought it was it looked like an ad to me with the happy dog on the front and all that kind of stuff. I would have made it look like, I don't know, like a report. It didn't look like a report. It looked like a brochure for Grant Sheds,
So what are you saying, Mike?
I'm saying that perhaps it needs to have some guy looking distressed with a shed or something that suits the title rather than something that something that makes it look like an ad. And I think here again, you've got the artist is choosing the image to go on the front, and not the copywriters.
Yeah, let me go back to it really quick. Okay, so the way I see it is that there's probably 3 ways you can go about it. You could go about it from a future pacing point of view, as in this is what you're going to get, and so you'd have a brand new shed with all your farm machinery. You can go at it from a pain point of view, a shed crumbling and all rusty or whatever, or you can go at it from a connection point of view. And I think what they've tried to do here is that farmer-dog connection kind of thing. Remember, the target market for this one is farmers, and every farmer I've ever known has always had a dog. So I think that's where it's going. Well, that was the reason for it. I know the shock and awe does do really well.
Right.
So Mike, Are you saying that we? Well, no, not necessarily. Are you saying that we might make a few photographic suggestions?
Yeah, well, that's what happens with other elements of the Shockernor, isn't it?
Yeah. So
the just going back to it, I also think what partly does it for me too is that one, the white isn't standing out very well on the yellow, and you're missing that guide part, the first line, which also is important to it. I think.
All right. No,
it should be one part together. You know,
it's not a bad point, and what I'm thinking for that, Mike, is maybe like we might put in brackets here. Note to designer, search for photo of brand new farm shed or something like that, or search for photo that is going to connect the farmer to the business. E.g. dog, or E.g. brand new shed, whatever. Search for or suggest include future pacing photo of what the new thing look. I certainly think that's worth everyone thinking about. If we've got a really good idea, there's nothing wrong with us putting in there some suggestions. Would everyone agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now it might be that the graphic designer can't find a good photo to match it, and they choose something else. I don't know, but certainly it wouldn't. I don't think it hurts anyone to put some suggestions there. That might even help the graphic designer. Find something that's congruent and helpful.
I think if I could just, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but I think Marie has a fairly good idea of the whole process, and she's been involved for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that she's always going to be the one doing the graphic design, though. I think you do have someone else at the moment.
Correct. Paradoxically, though, Mike, she did do that one.
Yeah.
I
thought that, and I did. Yeah, I did. I mean, I know I'm criticising what she's done, but to me, it doesn't work. So that's just an opinion.
Yeah, and understand too, we are not our market. We are not the market for that. But look, I think the bigger point here, Mike, is that can be helpful, and I would encourage everyone to do that. So under here, you might just go note to designer, suggest photos that do blah 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 blah. It might even be that in your research you found a really good photo, and you say suggest use this photo for cover, or suggest use photo like this for cover. That's helpful, and it keeps it congruent. So, no apology needed, Mike. That can be a very good and powerful thing to help the process and help it stay quite congruent.
Yeah. You could end up with knowing artists and the way they think. You could end up with the standard business people around the table on every second freaking photo if you get the wrong artist, honestly.
Yeah, true. Having said that, I think they've all been nice and individual. Most of the ones I've seen have been pretty impressive. They look pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that's Marie.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments, observations? No? Alrighty, radio interview script refresher. All right, you will know that as part of the Shockernor, we do a radio interview. Essentially, I'm the one who does the radio interview. So what I've asked everyone to do, because you've got your head so much in the project, is to write the radio interview script. Now, that is a reasonably simple procedure. I've got a couple of examples, a couple of older ones and a couple of newer ones. But what you need to consider for this, so the considerations in your mind when you're writing it, it always must have that what's in it for me kind of thing, me being the market, the person listening to it. And we have to follow that copywriting formula. What's the problem? Aggravate the problem, solve the problem, and then prove it. And then obviously we have a call to action as well. That's the basic copywriting formula. And we need to make sure that there are some modifications and certain certain scripts and certain businesses and certain markets lend themselves to some variations to that. But that general formula must be present in all of the scripts that we write. Understand too, we are not, and I don't think we should, be writing the answers for it. We can certainly put down some suggestions, so some bullet points, and I've often would say things like, if it's about question number 4, and the question is, so what are some of the problems that that people you work with face? And then I might go, include the 5 bullet points from book 2 or something, and they're the 5 reasons for the 5 whatever it might be. So you can certainly give answers, but don't write answers for the client. That's their job to do that. Okay, so a couple of things here. This is one of the older ones that I did. I'll just give you a second to read through that. Now, I admit I've gone to a few changes recently for that. So here's one I did, I don't know, a month or so ago. So have a read through that one.
It's looking a bit more like a promotion, Steve.
All right, I'll come back to that in a minute, Mike. What did you notice the difference between the two of them? There's a couple of subtle differences.
It's less of a promotion, the second one.
So that one's less of a promotion or more of a promotion?
It's more objective. The second one is more objective.
This one?
The hard work, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, couple of things I've morphed into. I used to make up a name for the radio program. I generally don't do that. I just say welcome to the call today. I don't want, I guess there's some question over is this legitimate, so I'm just saying welcome to the call today. The other thing I generally do is just this ending here to make it sound like it's active and it's real. John's on the line right now. Welcome, John. And I try not to tell too much of a story here. Okay, it really is just an intro, the problem, a little bit about the business so they can know, and then again aggravate, and then here's the solution to it, and he's on the line right now. So again, there is that problem, aggravate, solve, call to action kind of formula. So I do that in there, and then we do that generally in the interview as well.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
Steve?
Yep.
Yep, Steve. This radio interview, is it supposed to sound like a real radio interview though?
Yeah. Yep.
Because, I was on radio recently, and the second one's pretty much the way they talk with their intros for the people that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I guess it does sound a bit promotional because what they're doing is just by their voice and that, they are trying to get people to stay tuned and listen in, and it does sound a bit gets schmaltzy sometimes in the way that they speak. But I was wondering if we're trying to replicate that in the script.
Yeah, as well, actually, Pauline, the short answer is yes. Can you just maybe give and be a good education for all of us when you were on radio? What kinds of things did they do? Did they say? I mean, again, there's slightly a different purpose in both of these. One's quite prepared, the other one isn't, and we want a sale to be made. They just want you to keep listening. So there are some idiosyncrasies in there, but just from that experience, are there some things we should be putting in there that maybe not in there, or things we should take out? I'd just love to hear your opinion on that. It'd be instructive for everyone.
Well, the second one there for the HydroClean, because I actually did the shock and awe for that company.
Mm-hmm.
But even for the dirt, dust and DNA, I mean, they'd love that sort of stuff. The shock jocks, and I was actually on talkback radio, so they just talk all day. They've just got their and welcome back, thank you listeners and all that sort of stuff, and even with after the DNA it goes yuck. It's sort of like, and that is exactly what they would say. They're so expressive because they really want people to, there's a lot of inflection with their voice and a lot of maybe what we would think is over-the-top animation, but it's really just to get, because they can't show facial expression. So it's funny, me sitting there watching the announcer and as he's asking me questions and that, but there wasn't much movement in his face, but I tell you what, his voice had all the facial expressions right there in it. It was quite an amazing process.
Yeah. Let me say here how I did that was, and I won't put the inflection on too much here, but it was, the trusty air conditioner is is such a big part of modern life, but apart from turning it on or off, no one usually thinks about what's going on inside. Dirt, dust, and DNA. Yes, yuck, folks. They're all stuck inside your air conditioner. So, I mean, I do play around with that a little bit. So, I mean, that was a good one and a good example of what I will do is try and make it sound that compelling. Yes, yuck, folks, that's right in there. So, yeah, it's a good point. If there is something that is a little bit sensational like that, and I don't know about anyone else, but God, that turned me off, I'll tell you. I mean, the DNA part in your air conditioner.
You should have tried riding the shock and awe. I couldn't breathe after it.
Oh, yeah. Go and turn that air conditioner off. Go on.
Steve, it would be horses for courses, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I mean, if you're a B2C, this would work. If you're a B2B, you might want to make it more like not like a shock jock type interview, but more like a current affairs type one, wouldn't you?
Yes. And the two that spring to mind was the Rob O'Byrne one, which is a B2B one. That was a little bit toned down. And the other one was a Forex one I did just this morning. And I did try to have my voice perhaps a lot more, even and not as, yes, yuck, folks, kind of expression in it. And to make it sound a bit more like perhaps evening radio as opposed to your shock drop in the morning kind of thing. But you did right, Mike.
Can I just interject there, Steve?
Yep.
Sandy and I do a lot of radio interviews, and we find that it's very difficult to get the first part of the interview stable because everybody's nervous and there's all sorts of other things that interject. But once you get through maybe the first 4 or 5 minutes, everybody settles down. What we do is we do a similar thing to what you've got on the screen at the moment, and we give a bit of a it is a little bit hypey, but it's like Pauline was saying, it's all about getting the listener to actually engage. But further in, maybe only 2 minutes in, after they've got over the initial nerves, we ask them to tell a story. And when they start telling a story, that's when they come to life. So I don't know what the next few questions are in a radio interview, but that to me is a really an important way of helping the person you're interviewing engage with the listener.
Yeah, and again, what Mike said, it's a horses for courses kind of thing. It's a good point, Gary, but we've also got to make sure we keep in mind the purpose of this. This is a sales media.
Yep.
So the business owner should have and has had time to prepare. Look, let me tell you also that some people are really, really good at this, and some of them suck. They'll get 30 seconds into their first answer and they go, oh, God, can we start again? And we have to go and either start again or I make a note of the time and Michael edits that out. So it's never a perfect process. And I guess one thing we've got to be mindful of is always that what's in it for me. So we've got to think what's going to keep the listener listening. And that's the purpose of it. What's going to keep the listener on the other end of this CD listening? And so we've got to be that aggravate the problem quickly. Because if it is fluffy, then they'll go, well, this is boring, I'm out of here. I'm going to go and turn the radio on and get the CD out of the car. So we've still got to keep that in mind. It's got to be from the point of view of what's in it for me being the listener.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so Steve, is it sort of like the verbal tear sheet, that you've got the preeminence that you're setting up the actual company, or say in this case John, as the expert, so third-party endorsement that you're getting across in that initial stages, and then allow him to come in and then get into the crux of the interview.
Totally. It is that third person, you are the expert here on the program. Help us out. We've got this problem. In this case, it's DNA in the air conditioner. Help us out. How do we get around that? I don't want to be breathing in someone's skin follicles, that kind of thing. And it is very much designed to position that person as the industry expert. And part of that probably too is one of the questions is, so tell us a little bit about your story, your background. That probably should be in there somewhere. Although, look, I've got to tell you too, sometimes I even take that out if I feel it's appropriate. I can't give you an example of when I did, but sometimes if that question I think doesn't flow with the interview, I take that one out.
Do you expect to get the interview in one take, Steve?
85% I do, yep.
Because another thing that we do is we just go for it. We just chat with the people, and then we edit out what we don't want and put in what we do want. Now, admittedly, that's putting words in their mouths to some degree because we change the emphasis, but it's still something they said, so it's all cool, But
Yeah.
Potentially, that's a way of just saying, yeah, no worries, you mucked up there, just keep going, and you just edit that bit out later.
Yeah, 85% of them, Gary. All Michael does at Street Smart is put the music on at the end and at the start and the music at the end, and it flows quite nicely. And the other 15% of cases, if there is a glitch, either I thought they were finished and they were just taking a breath and I've come in with another question when I should have waited, or they go to pieces, I'll make a note of it and I'll say to Michael, here's the interview, can you make, can you, 19 minutes 36, X happened, edit that out, or even at the end of one of them, I said the wrong thing, the wrong phone number in the conclusion, and so I had to go and re-record that.
Yep.
All right, so any other questions there, guys? Does anyone need any more examples of a radio interview to model off?
Is there a template in terms of expected questions?
Yeah, there is, Gary. I'll go back and have a look and see what week it is. I'm sure I uploaded a document there for it.
Cool, okay.
I mean, I'm happy to upload the Hydro Clean one as I did it. Would that help as well?
Yeah, it might help, yeah.
Okay. Just note to self. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, let's push on. Mindful of time. Okay, so quick lessons. What's in it for me? Make sure problem, aggravate, solve. Been over that. Oh, one other thing, sorry. At the end of it too, can you make sure that you put all the FAQs, not the answers, just the FAQs. So, from book 5 or 6 that's got the list of the FAQs at the top, put them at the end of that. The only reason I do that's just a fail-safe, because sometimes I will, some people go to pieces and I will get only one-word answers, or they read out and they read every word, and then to try and get them talking more naturally, I'll throw in some of the FAQs. What I will do from the FAQs list before the interview is I'll go through and highlight the ones I feel might be relevant. I'll say to the person, look, I keep an eye on time. If we're running a bit short, I might throw question 4 in, question 7 in, and question 9 in. Is that okay? Usually they say, yeah, no problem, because they've written the answers or they know the answers from that. So please put the FAQs at the end there as a fail-safe. It really helps a business owner, and again, it's probably only about 30% of the time, but it is just handy because sometimes people talk too quickly or they go to pieces like you suggested, Gary. Alrighty. Pardon me. All right, I want to have a quick look about something that is, I think is really important. I think I've only mentioned it one other time, but it really can have a high impact for not a lot of time on our part, a high impact on the success or otherwise of the shop and all. So this was one of the ones I looked at, and I have showed you guys this before. This was on Dan Kennedy's example table over in the US. So it's these guys, the ESP, enjoyable, simple and prosperous. So protecting dealer profits from the scum of the universe. And you can see they've gone all with the space theme, but obviously they were... so this, open it up, here's the shop and all. Again, it looks very similar. And can you guys read the headlines there?
Yep. CPR, is it?
Yep. Yep, so don't sell another car before reading this. Find out if you're at risk. How to sell more cars without cutting prices. Who relies on Jimmy V and Travis Miller. Next step marketing CPR. What to expect when you become a Rich Dealers member. So boom, 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 up the line there. Alrighty, now what I would encourage everyone to do is to actually, before they upload their shop and all, is to actually do that so that the booklets tell a story quickly and easily. And here's what I mean by that. No, actually no, sorry. I've gone one too far. What I do, I either handwrite it, or I might have even said this in the later slide, or I type it out. I just make sure that I haven't repeated too many words, repeated the business name too many times, but I make sure it tells a story that I can see quickly and easily. And that can have a big difference, because you might do a really cool heading there or subhead there, you might do a really cool one there, and then you come back, you leave one till the end, and it just doesn't flow when you look at them all together. And often when we're in separate Word documents, we don't have that visual effect of the final, all of the booklets together. So be really mindful, either before you do it or the last thing you do, the last thing you put in before you upload it, is that those booklet titles tell a story without too much repetition. And notice too how nice and short and succinct these are. Bang, bang, bang. They're not 3 or 4 pages, or sorry, 3 or 4 lines long. So that's one thing I'm always mindful of when I do it. I go back and I check that it does tell me a story. That's got to be a story from 1 through to 7. Got to be the story. Questions, comments?
Yeah, Steve, in what format and how did you want that you wanted that uploaded on Basecamp?
No. Just for your own records, mate. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Just self-reference.
Yep. It's just a thing to make sure, you know. You
just lay them out so you can look at it.
I'll give you an example, Mohammed. This could read, don't sell another car before reading this ESP guide. Find out if you're at risk and how ESP can help you. How to sell more cars without cutting prices, the ESP method. Who relies on ESP for their... Now, if you're doing them in isolation, you're doing them over a couple of weeks, the booklets, that could become quite repetitive. Now, if you open that up and it's gone ESP, that's just one example, you know, it becomes boring for the reader. So what I'm suggesting is, because it is done in isolation, take it out of isolation and put them all together.
Yeah, so you just lay it out to determine the flow of it.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
You know, and this one, what to expect when you become a Rich Dealers member. No, you wouldn't expect this from any other deal, and blah, and it goes over too many lines. You know, you just got to be mindful of all of those visual presentation things as much as the words.
So Steve, probably an easy way to do that is maybe an upside down table of contents in a Word doc.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I actually just write them out by hand. I don't know why.
You can write?
Yeah, I can write. Although it is hard when I have the man flu, but that's all I do. I just write them out by hand. Why that works for me, I don't know. But I just do. If you just want to copy and paste them and put them in a Word doc and see, yeah.
Courses.
Unread.
I mean, these guys, Steve, have laid them out in their actual physical shock and awe, haven't they? Whereas with ours, the title's at the top of each book. I mean, Marie doesn't later on lay each title out in front of the prospect in the shock and awe for them to view this way.
Sorry, mate, what was that? What do you mean by that?
If you open up the ESP shock and awe here, you've
Yep.
got each title from to 6 or whatever for the prospect to see at a glance, all the headings of it.
Yep.
When we print our final shock and awe's after Marie's designed them,
Yep.
she doesn't lay the titles out one
No.
after another like this.
No. And that's what I'm saying. That's our job. You know, those titles are our job.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of doing it as well, though, isn't it? Having them one after another.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it works really well. It's just a little fail-safe for me. Yeah.
Hang on, I think there's a misunderstanding. Is that this is the way the shock and awe's are presented, is it not?
Correct. That's what a shock and awe looks like. Yeah.
So they do look like this. We've got to get these titles so they work, right?
Correct. Yeah.
There's a you see this? It looks like more. And how many words would go across that? I guess that depends on the design, doesn't it?
Yeah. Depends on if you use all block capitals or what font size and so forth.
But it's going to have to be. You couldn't have these run on 2 lines. It'd mess up the whole
Correct.
design, and then she'd have to use a smaller font, or she'd possibly have to edit the
Yeah.
title. Yeah,
And what I'm saying is, if there's going to be editing done, I want us to edit it.
yeah, that's a really good point.
Hey Steve, is there any possibility that we can get some the right hand side of a couple of the current shock and awe's that have been produced by Marie just as that one-page printout, so we can actually see the different types of flow that Marie's actually producing?
I could ask her, I guess. Other than that, go to some examples that are on Basecamp.
I guess what I'm saying is because that example there isn't actually what Street Smart's produced, that I'm led to believe that Street Smart's producing at the moment.
Oh, it's
slightly different.
Yeah,
so
it's close though.
Good to see the actual. Yeah, it is close, I guess, but because if no one's seen the end result, what the inside looks like, then they're going to be going off this, and then they're going to be making the smaller headings. Whereas I know with the HydroClean one, they were 2 to 3 lines as each booklet because they're spread out more.
Yeah, I will say book 1 on the Street Smart ones probably comes just above that fold there, the little flap, and so they are spread out a bit more. The only thing I will say to that, and I'll show you some examples in a second, I think I've done them and I think they're too long. We don't want there to be an essay here. You know, I like the way these are nice and short and succinct, because you just in one quick glance you know which part you're going to go to. You know, bang, bang, bang. You can just see what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, you know, that's just a guideline, and every single shock and awe, every single market is different. So work within that as much as you can. Okay, guys, can we go on and push on a little bit? We also have to. One other thing I want you to be mindful of. We also have to be cognizant of the fact that within the guidelines of shock and awe, not all things work as they would normally do. Now, what I mean by that is that I'll just show you an example. The client I'm working with now, it's a marketing company which is backed by Australia's largest rental property management group. So in other words, instead of me going as an investment property owner, instead of me going to a real estate agent, I go to them. They do all my rental property stuff. You know, they collect the rent, they do the inspections, take the photos, advertise, blah, 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 blah. So this client is has come to us. It's a new business, and they're really just, I guess, a front marketing company to funnel people into this large database. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so what the issue there for me is that which of the books doesn't really fit then, as we would understand for a shock and awe. I mean, I can still do rental data sort of stuff to scare people. We can still do a quiz. You know, offer is obviously there. What book doesn't
Would
really
it be
work?
the Who Relies on Us?
It'd be book 6.
No, that would still be, you know, first-time investors, mum and dad investors, you know, people with multiple properties, people with their, you know, that sort of thing. So no, that still works. Well, for me, it was book one, whatever the company story is. They don't really have a story because they are just a front marketing company to funnel people into this. So you can see how...
Isn't that their story?
Well...
You didn't know what to tell them.
They are concerned going to the market, saying that is going to be problematic for them. So they don't want to say that.
Right, okay.
So within that, because they've got no story, we're not doing book one as we know it. So here's, oh, sorry, there's just another bit. It's come over and use our system. That's the target market. Sorry, didn't put that in. There's no real who am I story for book one. So what to do? Well, here's what I've done. So book one is Tales of Terror from Self-Managed Rental Property Owners. So in other words, I've taken sort of the content part of book two and put it into book one. Book two is giving investors what they want and need, who relies on RPS, which is the name of the company, the marketing company. Can the property manager you're thinking of hiring answer these 12 questions? Now this is all just in draft form at the moment. I haven't written any of this. Book 4 to your advantage, the RPS real-time portal explain. Now the point of difference for this company is that they've got this online portal where from anywhere in the world you can log onto it, you can see the updates and status of your property in terms of how much rent's being collected, the latest photos, and a whole lot of other stuff. So no other rental management company actually has that. So that's their main point of difference. So I've done a whole book dedicated to that, or I will do a whole book dedicated to that. Book 5, your easy seamless move to the RPS system. Book 6, questions investors frequently ask. And book 7, getting started, costs you nothing. Now looking at those, that one perhaps is a bit long, and maybe that one's a bit long. I might even get rid of the to your advantage and just go the RPS real-time portal explain. So that is how I've massaged that to deal with a horses for courses thing. Yes, Monica?
Is there a typo in the first one, tails? Shouldn't that be T-A-L-E-S?
Yeah, it should be. Thank you.
No worries.
Like I said, I haven't written any of this yet.
Steve?
Yep.
Why don't you replace book one with why this business came about? You know, why it was necessary for the business to happen.
Yeah, and
it's still in the same theme as book one. It's just not focused on a person, but rather on the...
It's a good point, Mike, and here's my thinking at the moment. I'm going to have 3 or 4 case studies of what happened to people who tried to manage it themselves and it went pear-shaped, and then I will lead into, so that aggravates, that's the problem, aggravating it, and then the solution is this particular system, and that was how I was going to lead into it. But because there is no story there, I was concerned that I would have a lot of blank space in that first book. So if it's only a small bit of copy there, I'm okay with that in terms of explaining the company's role. Don't know how I'll do it yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be quite short.
Yeah. So that's you're doing much the same anyway.
Yeah.
But you're putting problem solution.
Yeah. So guys, can you see again? That looks like a shock and awe per se, but it's massaged to fit into the system based on what that business has to offer. Everyone okay with that, or any questions?
No, it makes sense.
That doesn't replace the titles on the actual snapshot, does it? Like the parts of the booklet.
Sorry, what do you mean by
The
that?
headline. You know the headlines. Every booklet of the Snap has a headline at the top. So that
these are the headlines.
Doesn't replace.
These are the headlines.
So
at the
these
top.
are the headlines.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
So if I get you correctly, Steve, you're basically looking for a short, concise headline that can be just put across the top of the book and become visible in the series, like you showed in the shock and awe before.
Correct. Yep. And Gary, how I pardon me, how I make sure I get that right, or at least the steps I take to get it right, is do something like that.
Yeah.
List them out. So I haven't got, like I said, RPS mentioned in every book, and it does tell a story. And if you want to flip them around so it reads the way it would in a shock, by all means do that. Okay, here's another example. This was Carl and Mark, who their other side business was going to be to help baby boom mechanics to transition into, out of their business rather than selling on the open market. They've got a membership program where they coach them into the succession planning thing. Now, Carl and Mark come to this. It's a brand new business, so they've got no track record. They've got credibility in the auto industry, but not credibility in the business sale industry. They've got no testimonials about, I had my business on the market for 3 years and then I couldn't sell it, and then I came into this program and within a month it was sold. They don't have any of those kinds of testimonials, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. So this is what I came up with. Again, it's in draft form though. So we've got helping you transition into retirement on your terms, and then Carl and Mark's auto industry story. I would probably eliminate one of those. Myths and facts about selling a small business in Australia's tough economic conditions. What is succession planning and is it right for me? Is your business properly prepared for sale? Who relies on business succession as the number one safe way to cash out? 7 reasons why succession planning is safest and best. I'd probably rethink that. And the first steps to the safe and easy business sale of your business. Now, looking at that, when I put it out there, there's probably a bit too much repetition of safe and easy in there. I've probably mentioned it in sort of 3 places, so you've got to be really careful about that. But again, you can see it doesn't exactly, because you could sit there and look at that and go, gee, that doesn't follow what we think most shock and aws are like. And that's okay, because some businesses don't lend themselves exactly to that particular formula. So the whole purpose of me showing you this is to note that there can be some flexibility within our shock and awe formula. And that's just another example of it. They didn't have that track record. They didn't have the business as a going concern to talk about. So I did have to flip things around a little bit for them. Alrighty, and your book titles. Here we go really quickly. They must tell a story quickly and easily. As I mentioned, I do list them out by hand or a Word doc and check for flow readability. I check that they're not too long. I check that the business name or keywords aren't repeated too many times. And if they are, I go back and change them. And you would have noticed in that the ESP one that there wasn't a lot of repetition of things, and it did tell a story quickly and easily. So it's a really good last point to think about before you upload it to Basecamp. And also consider the flexibility and the change of offer. So we don't want to be putting the offer necessarily on the front cover, win a trip to Thailand, if that is only going to last for a little while. All right, any questions, comments, observations?
Thanks, Steve. I just have to say goodbye because I've got a client call scheduled in 5 minutes, so I'll read the rest online, okay?
Okay, cool, Monica. And I'm very happy that you're now back to work like the rest of us. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so really quick recap. We've reviewed a couple of components as a refresher. We've analysed some samples. We've had some discussions, and hopefully we do have a shared understanding. Alrighty, it is just after 1. I'll give you about 15 seconds to have a think about what you got most out of today's call, and then we will go around the table. Alrighty, Brendan, we'll start with you, please. Most major thing you got out of today's call?
Yeah, I'm going to edit my headlines a lot more for the books.
Cool. Good one. It's been worthwhile then. Dave Oliver.
Just making sure that the headlines work when they're put together. I mean, next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, nice important one. Farad.
For me, it was how to, I would say, corporatize the Shokino, and especially what to do if the guy has no experience in one industry and he's making a transition.
Yeah, nice. Nice. Gary.
Yeah, much like Dave, I think the connection between the headlines, it's a great place to make a story. The unusual thing about them, and I've really not looked at Shockenoirs that much, but the unusual thing is that the last book is at the top.
Yes.
And I guess there's some smarts in that because that's the offer as well. So, you know, your eyes scan from the offer down to find out why the offer. So.
Nice observation. Michael.
Yeah, I guess it was just basically with the headlines on how to write the like the headlines and not be too specific and give the client the flexibility to change as well within the shock and all.
Mm-hmm. Nice, Mike.
Just the you know, the importance of the headline. That will really go in.
Sorry, we had a couple talking there. Sorry, Mike Barker. What I was up to?
Is there another Mike?
Yeah, Michael Martin and Mike Barker.
We've got two mics now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
G'day, Mike. Two for the mics. Yeah, two. That's really bad. That's terrible. Boom, boom. Shh. Sorry, Mike, go.
No, for me, just the importance of, you know, thinking about the finished, because often we just get lost in the copy and the words, and just thinking about, hang on, this has got to display in a certain way.
Yeah.
In the same way you would with for a column ad or something.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Ray.
Yeah, I'd just like the clarification and those little fine tweaks of just putting all the book headings together and just making sure that they all flow themselves as well as then flow into the actual product of the snap. So that was great.
Yeah, nice. Pauline.
Sort of what Mike and that have said, because I guess as copywriters we don't really see the finished product all that often, and to see the ESP guys with them all, you know, laid out, it did look like a table of contents, and it really made a lot of sense. And then I looked through a Shock and Awe pack that I actually ordered from one of the clients that I wrote for, and I actually did notice a difference, and I thought, crap, why didn't I think of that? But I mean, it's not an obvious thought.
No.
You know, we don't always see the way that the design is done. So for me, that was really that was a big aha.
Awesome. Love big ahas. Cool. It's interesting too, because I think a lot of, you know, what we have done previously isn't necessarily bad, but I think it can be done a bit better, a bit clearer, a bit simpler. And Mohammed.
Mine was definitely the snap flexibility.
That's right, awesome. Okay, guys, is a refresher like that every now and again, is that a useful thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
For sure.
All right, fantastic. All right, guys, well, we'll leave it there. Have a good week, everyone, and I will see you next week.
Get well soon, Steve.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If I'm still alive, I'll see you next week.
Good luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.